Good evening and welcome to the February 12th meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. This meeting is being held virtually via Zoom video conference and is also being broadcast by FCTV on cable channel 9. As this meeting is being recorded by Zoom and broadcast by FCTV, please be cognizant of what you say, how you say it, and what can be seen and heard in your background. We're missing one commissioner tonight. However, we have a quorum. We're moving forward. As a reminder,
Jamie, did we start recording?
yes.
Okay. Usually they tell us.
They did.
Okay, thanks.
As a reminder to not interrupt other people, commenting, I'll call on each of you at the appropriate time, and that all votes are done by roll call. When I call your name, please state your name and your vote for the record, even if you've made the motion or the second. To our public attendees, at any time during this meeting, you may enter any comments or questions via the chat function. At the appropriate time, they will be read into the record. If, as an attendee, you'd like to participate in a particular hearing, let us know via the chat function. Then at the appropriate time, you will be promoted into the hearing as a participant. When you are selected, you must have your video enabled, be succinct and respectful of others. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes each. For RDAs, under a request for determination of applicability, the applicant is asking the commission to determine if the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and or the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw apply to their proposed project. A negative determination is that the provisions of the Act and or the bylaw do not apply. Therefore, the project may proceed as proposed. A positive determination means the provisions of the Act and or the bylaw do in fact apply and or may require some conditions. Therefore, the project would require a notice of intent application. So as an applicant, you actually want to hear a negative determination. For the benefit of anyone waiting for a particular hearing tonight, so that you're not waiting unnecessarily, the following hearing is expected to be continued. 402 Wild Harbor Road. First up tonight, vote minutes, January 29, 2025. Anyone?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move approval of the minutes as written. Patton.
Bird, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept the minutes as submitted for 129. Questions or comments? We're voting to accept the minutes. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Russ.
Robbins, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted the minutes of 129. Next up is to vote minutes of February 5th, 2025.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the minutes as written. Patton.
Bird, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept the minutes of February 5th. Questions or comments? We're voting to accept the minutes of February 5th. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Russ.
Robbins, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted the minutes of February 5th. Thank you, Kristen. Next up is a request for a continuance under a notice of intent. Susan Moran, trustee, Charles E. Moran, Qualified Personal Residence Trust, 402 Wild Harbor Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to replace an existing concrete bulkhead with a vinyl sheet piling and to conduct invasive species management and restoration. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we met with the applicant's representatives a few weeks ago. They just need a bit more time putting the plan together. So they are requesting an additional continuance until February 26th.
Bird, so move.
Gladfelter, second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to continue this until February 26th. Questions or comments? We're voting on the continuance. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Russ.
Robbins, aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until 2/26. Next up is a request for a continuance under an enforcement order. Stephen Augusta, 33 Oyster Shell Lane, East Falmouth, Mass. Unpermitted removal of mitigation plantings and unpermitted installation of hardscape within conservation jurisdiction. Jen?
They are requesting a continuance until April 16th. We'll be meeting with their representative in the coming weeks to go over everything.
So April 16,
Correct.
So moved.
Bird second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this enforcement hearing until April 16th. Questions or comments? We're voting on the continuance. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Russ?
Robbins, aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this till 4/16. Next up are requests for determination of applicability. First up, John Grassi, 320 Walker Street, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to repair and expand an existing deck and to construct a new second level deck. Alyssa?
Staff recommends a -2 under the state and bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed, and this project solely takes place in an AE flood zone.
Bird so moved.
Patton, second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? We're voting. Sorry, Steve, didn't mean to interrupt. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Russ?
Robbins, aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Peter Langen, 381 Seco Shores Boulevard and 0 Ipswich Drive. Map and parcel ID 41-06-000-097, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to raise, RAZE, and rebuild a single-family dwelling, expand and pave a driveway, install a new Title V sewage disposal system, remove vegetation, and conduct associated grading. Alyssa?
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird so moved.
Patton, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? All right, we're voting. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Russ?
Robbins, aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, James Weiss, trustee, James V. Weiss, 09 Revocable Trust, 17 Cuddy Sark Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to replace a failed sewage disposal system and install a new Title V sewage disposal system. Alyssa?
Staff recommends a -2 under the state and bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed, and this project solely takes place in an AE flood zone.
Bird so moved.
Patton, second.
We have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? We're voting. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Russ?
Robbins, aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Quisset Harbor House Land Trust, Inc., 18 Cary Lane and 71 Quisset Harbor Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to conduct invasive species management and annual mowing in accordance with Mass DEP number 25-4396. Alyssa?
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird so moved.
Patton, second.
Alyssa, please expand on the annual mowing.
So this is originally a project that the commission saw many, many years ago. This is when you're just driving in on Cary Lane, it's the property to the left overlooking the water where I believe it was Crawford originally who did a very large invasive species removal and restoration project. We had brought it to you guys for compliance as there were some shrubs that didn't make it. So when the project was approved, it called for annual mowing. The staff recommended against it because we were concerned about the shrubs out there, but it had been approved. So now they're just looking to continue on this maintenance.
So is this in perpetuity?
This is something we expect them to come back every 3 years to renew.
Okay. Duly noted. We have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? We're voting. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Russ,
Robbins, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, David and Kathy Bryson, 4 Cottage Lane, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to maintain an existing view corridor and to remove 2 trees. Alyssa,
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Patton, second.
all right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? We're voting. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Russ,
Robbins, aye.
Steve.
Aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, William and Elizabeth Scannell, 314 Quisset Avenue, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to install a new Title V IA sewage disposal system. Woo-hoo. Alyssa,
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Patton, second.
all right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? We're voting. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye with a gold star.
ooh. Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Russ,
Robbins, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Ellen Peebles, 91 Quonset Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to install a new Title V sewage disposal system. Alyssa,
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Patton, second.
we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Questions or comments? We're voting. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Russ,
Robbins, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Thank you to Alyssa and Fallon. Next up are requests for a hearing under a notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. As a reminder, public commenting is limited to 3 minutes. So I encourage you to stay within the purview of this board, which are the rules and regulations of the Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw, and how they pertain to a particular application. The chair reserves the right to stop any commenting that is disparaging or inconsequential to the hearing. First up, Catherine M. Truman, 78 Benjamin Nye Lane, North Falmouth, Mass. For permission to install stone patios, walkways, and mitigation plantings, and to conduct invasive species management. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have promoted Mike Borselli and I'm attempting to promote Lindsay Cook up to present their projects. Mike, am I promoting Lindsay? Is it
Yes.
Lindsay?
Yes,
That's what I thought.
and I think Annie Griffenberg may also be here.
Oh, yep, I see. Okay, and an Annie Griffenberg. And there's a Catherine Truman, the applicant.
Oh, yes, the applicant also.
With their hand raised. Am I promoting the property owner as well?
There's no need to promote her, but if there's issues or questions or something she wants to elaborate on, she can certainly be promoted at that time unless she
Okay.
wants.
Okay, excellent. Well, her hand's down, so okay.
Mr. Borselli, you're up, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the commission, for the record, Mike Borselli, Falmouth Engineering. I represent the applicant along with Lindsay Cook and Andy Griffenberg. We represent Catherine Truman, the property owner at 78 Benjamin Nyes Lane. The property is on a 95,000 square foot lot with a wetland to the northeast.
Mike, excuse me, you're not sharing if you intended to.
Yes, I do intend to share. Yep. And I was just giving you a little background.
Okay, sorry.
We have a few plans to share. I'm going to share my plan at this time with your permission, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
And then Lindsay's going to share some other more detailed plans. My plan is an overall site plan showing the property. The lot, as I said, is rather large, so I've inserted a key map, but I've zoomed in on the area of interest on the top left side of the site plan. So this property has a bordering vegetated wetland to the northwest. Across Benjamin Nye Lane to the east northeast, there's also bordering vegetated wetlands that we believe these are old. I think these are old cranberry bogs that have been reclaimed over time. Also on the property is the boundary of flood zone AE15. It's shown as a blue line on my plan. From this blue line, this direction is flood zone AE15. And because the land slopes, it also meets the definition of coastal bank. So even though we're really nowhere near the coastline, we're in a coastal flood zone and we have a sloping landform. So there is in fact by definition a coastal bank. And we've identified the top of the coastal bank as well with this orange line. The property's previously developed. There's two structures on the property. The main house, which I'm circling here, and then a smaller building over here. There's a common teardrop shaped driveway, lawn areas. It's been developed for a very, very long time. It's, I think, one of the original houses in North Falmouth. It's that old. The applicant has acquired it and done some improvements to the house and wants to do some improvements to the grounds that include restoration areas of the buffer and then enhancement with mitigation planting, some improvements to outside living areas with patios and things like that, and a small improvement to parking to help ease the driveway traffic flow. There's a proposal for a parking area next to this building here. Since the bulk of this work entails restoration areas in the buffer and proposed mitigation, my plan is mainly the base plan that all the other design was developed off of. And the areas of expertise are both Annie Griffenberg and Lindsay Cook. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to, I guess, Annie. and I'm gonna be in the background to answer any questions.
Thanks, Mike.
So I'm Annie Griffenberg with Horiuchi Celine Landscape Architects, and we're working with the client on the spaces, the outdoor living spaces up around the house. And I guess, Lindsay, if you can just share your plan, I can maybe speak to that. And I'm just going to very quickly go over what the hardscape changes that we've made around the house. And then I'll turn it over to Lindsay. So we have added a couple of walkways. I'm not sure. Can you see my cursor moving?
Not if she's sharing.
Okay. Well, then on the east side of the house and on the south side of the house, we have added stepping stones leading to the main doors of the house. On the north side of the house, there is an existing gravel terrace that we are actually removing and replacing with stone paving in lawn. And then on the south side of the house, there is a small existing terrace of stone pavers in planting, and we're going to be expanding that very slightly. And just below that, on the north side of the driveway, we are planning to just extend the existing retaining wall so that when guests arrive, they know which door to go to. And then as Mike already mentioned, on the south side of the driveway, we're going to be adding a couple of parking spaces. And in order to do that, we need to add a retaining wall and do a little bit of grading there. And then moving over to Benjamin Nyes Lane, there is a sort of crumbling existing retaining wall that kind of runs along the road. And we are going to actually remove that and then do a gradual grade down to the street, which will be planted. There is an area just to the north portion of that where the grade gets a little bit steep. And so we're not entirely sure, but think we may need to place a few boulders there just to help us hold the grade. So we'll be taking boulders out in some places with this sort of crumbling wall, but then adding potentially a couple up at that northern portion. And then at the sort of northwest corner of the house, we are adding some boulders and some stepping stones, which will be in planting, a ground cover that allows the client to access some hammocks that are going to be stretched between the trees there. So that's the extent really of the hardscape that we are modifying on the site, and all of this has been taken into account for the mitigation planting that is being handled by Parterre Ecological. And so unless there are any questions about that, I'll just turn it over to Lindsay to talk about the mitigation planting that she's been handling and designing.
Okay, thank you, Annie.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you. Lindsay Cook from Parterre Ecological, and I'm here to answer any questions about the restoration and the mitigation. So I should probably start by saying this project is broken up into two pieces. We have the mitigation area is this yellow, where we have meadow called for, and all of these are shrubs that are within the meadow. That total square footage is enough to cover these landscape improvements that Annie was just speaking of. As a separate piece to this project, the homeowner is interested in doing restoring this wetland buffer. So we have 15,000 square feet of area where we are removing invasive species. It extends over here as well. And we want to replace, basically we're trying to heal that ecosystem. There's quite a lot of invasives in there, and we'd like to remove the invasives, hopefully get a lot of natives coming back in after that invasive pressure has been released, but also planting back nursery stock where needed to fill in to 100% plant cover. So I can run through, we had some staff comments that I would like to address at this time. I'm just going to run through them, and if you have any additional questions, just feel free to stop me and ask. We had a request for, we need this measurement from the closest part of the coastal bank to the structure. That will be added in the revised plan. There was a request for these 2 witch hazels to not be counted as our mitigation trees. Right now we have a white fringe tree here and the 2 witch hazels. We're going to add 2 other trees, another white fringe and a red bud, and these will no longer count as mitigation plants, although I think they will stay as part of the design. We are going to add some witch hazels in this area as well. Annie explained there was a question about what these were. These are boulders and they are possibly needed to hold the grade, and they already have been added in as a calculation for the mitigation. We were requested to replace the oak leaf hydrangea with an alternative species, which we will do in the updated plan. There was a request for the mitigation area not to be mowed, and I did want to address that. I recognize in the notes that it's not clear that what we're planning on doing is we want to keep the meadow. The homeowner is really interested in having this be a diverse ecological property. So we would like to have the different areas, meadow, woodland, shrubland, all in this property. If we don't ever mow the meadow, succession will eventually take it into a forest again. So we'd like to hold the meadow in that early successional phase by carefully mowing in the spring after the plants break before the plants break dormancy, around the mitigation shrubs with like a string trimmer. We have no intention of bringing in big equipment or mowing anything down or touching. The reason these shrubs have been planned to be planted this way is to keep them in clusters so that we can mow that, keep it as meadow, but not hurt these shrubs that are in here. So that I'm hoping will be okay in our updated plan if I just change the language to make sure it's very clear that we're not going to come in with a brush mower and knock this all down, that this is a really specific effort to keep this area as meadow. There was a comment about this additional 281 square feet that we need to that needs to be accounted for in the mitigation. So we will add that 281 square feet to the updated plan. The trees that are going to be removed, we started to get a really busy looking plan with the existing trees and the new trees. So we didn't have these on there. There's a separate document in the land management plan that shows all the trees proposed for removal. We can go in and add those as onto this plan so that everything is right there. We can overlay that layer. That will be in our updated plan. Remove switchgrass from the conservation wildlife seed mix. This can absolutely be done. I'm assuming it's because it can be aggressive in meadows. It's not spec'd for the meadow, it's spec'd for the wooded area. I don't think it will be aggressive in that situation, but I also don't mind removing it from that mix and creating a custom mix without it. The mow strip should be extended. I'm assuming that this means here, just to keep there will still be invasive species over here. We are doing one chunk at a time here. So if to keep the invasives out of the meadow, if that is what the staff meant by extending the mow strip, we can update the plan to have the mow strip come all the way around the mitigation area. And there was a question about, I said we are looking for 100% plant cover. That is including ground cover. That was the question, is does that include ground cover? Because there are these perennial areas. This is a perennial concentration area where we plan to put a lot of perennials. There are shrubs in here, but in certain areas, like especially very close to the mitigation area here, I expect it will be shrubs and ground cover to get to our 100%. Back here, it's heavily wooded. I don't expect a lot of ground cover back here. I think we'll have some good shrubs coming back once we've removed the invasive species, but at that place, it would be 100% of trees and shrubs. So throughout the property, it will be varied what our layers are, but I'm shooting for 100% everywhere. And then the staff was hoping that we would add more plants. The reason I didn't start with as many natives as I did over here, there was also a question about why this wasn't shaded. This isn't receiving a seed mix. So in this key, This color is our woodland seed mix. I wasn't going to put it down here by the driveway. This area is being regraded. There's nothing native there that's going to make it. So we really wanted to start fresh. So these shrubs I have placed pretty tightly in here, and I don't think we need a seed mix there. Over here, where I'm expecting more native recruitment and we have a seed mix going in, I'd like to see what moves in first and then fill in the gaps with nursery stock. So especially in this area, I see we have an opening. It's pretty much 100% invasive species in here. So we have decided to add some witch hazels in here and to slightly shift these trees so they'll be a little bit more staggered and fill this space a little bit better. So that would be part of the updated plan. Are there any other questions?
We'll get to questions after your presentation, if you don't mind, Annie. Lindsay, sorry.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to add one thing, Mr. Chairman. This is in priority habitat, and we filed with Natural Heritage. They have not yet commented. Because of that, we're unable to close tonight, but we wanted to make sure we presented the project in its entirety, take into account the staff's comments, revise the plan, work with your staff to address these comments that Lindsay just went through, and then continue and hopefully have the letter back from Natural Heritage, which we anticipate will be a no-take letter.
Okay. You good, Mike?
Yes, thank you.
Lindsay, you good
Yes.
for now? Okay, please stop sharing then. Thank you. Jen?
Excuse me. Yeah.
Yawning already?
I know, sorry about that. Thank you for going through staff comments, Lindsay. I think our concern is with your lighter green area where it doesn't show a lot of shrubs. You say it's like 100% or up to 100% invasive, and I think we just wanted to see more. And I know we spoke about this when we met on Zoom about how you want to go in there, see what comes back, and then we may add some plants, but we may require plants to be added because when the board does have removal of invasives, they usually don't count ground cover as, a 100, like as part of your total vegetation cover. They want to see that shrub layer back. But we can work more with you as you revise the plan to address some of our concerns. The only other thing I wanted to add is thank you for switching out those witch hazels for the red bud and the other, what did you say, white fringe?
Yes.
But are they still going to be that close to the house? Because they are pretty close to the house, so.
So we were going to leave the witch hazel where they were, but move the red bud and the white fringe so they would be further away from the house.
Okay, and you think the witch hazel will be okay that close to the house?
We may rethink it. But it will no longer be counting as part of the mitigation plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We were just concerned that once it grows, it'll either impact the house or, force the homeowner to want to like trim it or, so just something we want you to think about. That's all I have for right now, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Alyssa?
Thank you. Just two quick comments, Lindsay. Yes, that's where I'm talking about the mow strip. Might just be helpful to keep the mitigation safe from the invasives that are still on that untouched part of the property. And to the commission, if everyone finds it acceptable to allow the mowing of the mitigation area, perhaps at least a single rail fence that delineates the mowed area from the lawn would be helpful. That's all. Thank you.
All right. So Lindsay and Annie, I haven't seen you before, so just information for you. Protocol, we usually have the applicants and or the representatives, present the project, in all together, and then we go back through for comments. So sometimes it's seems like we bounce back and forth. And don't be annoyed when we ask you to share your plan again, but it's the way we do things. Go to bed. All right, commissioner comments. Betsy.
I have no questions, but my comment is I like the idea of having a mosaic of habitats to increase the biodiversity in the area. That's all, Jamie.
All right. Courtney.
Two things. I concur with Jen's concerns about the proximity of the witch hazel to the house. I think he should think about that and make sure that, you allow enough room so when it reaches full height, that's not crowding the house and becoming an issue of maintenance and that kind of stuff. The second thing is what's the methodology that you're planning to employ to control the invasives?
So we're going to use numerous techniques because we have quite a few invasives there. We actually have some Japanese knotweed, so we will be cutting that and dripping it. We have everything is going to be, so we have a lot of trees getting removed first, those invasive trees. Those probably are getting removed by a subcontractor, but I don't think everything we're doing will be done by hand. So just cutting all the invasives and then wiping the stump with herbicide and removing them from the area.
Where would you dispose of the stuff? Like Japanese knotweed, where's it going?
Honestly, I would have to check on that. So
yeah, I mean, you don't want it going back into a landfill where it can spread to somewhere else.
Absolutely not.
I would like to see where that's going.
Okay.
And then we'll condition, where it's going, and we want to make sure that whoever's receiving it is giving their permission. Because that's nasty stuff. You don't want to spread that around.
Absolutely.
So they're using a combination of mechanical means and herbicides. Is that correct? And
yes.
so you wouldn't. How long will it take you to do that control and know that it's done sufficiently that you can replant there?
It depends on the area. So where we have the Japanese knotweed, it's typically a 3 to 5 year plan before. It's pretty limited in where it is right now. Well, I guess I'm not sharing my screen, but it's right around that rhododendron patch. And then we have another small swath on the edge of the wetland and on the edge of the road. Those areas probably are going to need some time before we can plant anything back there other than the ground cover mix, just because we want to make sure we get a handle. Everything else, I feel like we should probably have complete control within the year, and we could be planting back in the spring or in the fall. If we have a really good result with the herbicide, we might be able to plant as early as the fall.
Okay. Particularly with the Japanese knotweed, that's nasty, stubborn stuff. And it seems to thrive on Roundup and that kind of stuff. It just seems to like it and gulp it down and smile at you. So, that's why I'm concerned about the methodology here. Okay, I have no other questions. I think conceptually it's a good project.
Excellent. Thanks. Kevin.
No questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right. Russ.
I'm good, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Steve.
I think this project will make a dramatic impact on this property. It's really amazing to think about. Your plan and your descriptions of your work are substantial. The only thing I couldn't find is I can't find the mitigation calculations. We talked about it a lot, but I can't find the pluses and minuses you usually see. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I've gone through all the plans and I'm pretty sure it's not there.
Okay, I will make sure that is in the updated plan.
So what were the additions in zone A?
The hardscape.
That
And
had
do
to be
you have the
mitigated.
numbers?
Excuse me?
You're muted. Annie.
I'll see if I can get to them quickly.
It was all the hardscaping, Steve. It was the
I
additional
understand, and I
Yeah.
assume their mitigation was at least substantial enough to cover it. I just like to see the numbers.
Yeah,
It looks
we
like we
had
had
the,
738 of new
Yep.
hardscape. And it's all zone A because of the box
Right.
turtle habitat. So that would be a 3 times that would give us the 284 shrubs.
Great. Thank you. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All right. Jen, is there anything on the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Is that, are you guys clear what you want on a revised plan? And do you feel it's necessary to continue because of that?
No,
Yes.
we have they need a natural heritage letter. We can't
You're
close
right.
it.
Yeah,
Yep.
unfortunately, they have 30 days to comment, and you're holding hearings less than 30 days, so this happens now and then.
Trying to help you out, Mike. What can I say?
I'm trying to show how efficient you are in holding your hearings.
Well, isn't it a statutory requirement to hold it?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that's true too. You're still
All right.
efficient.
Courtney?
I would like to see a letter showing where they're going to dispose of it and that the recipient is giving permission. I'd like to see that before the orders and conditions are issued.
We're not closing the hearing yet, Courtney.
No, but I mean, if you're going to close
Oh,
it,
but-
then that's what I want. If you're not going to close it, then I'll wait for.
We're not. We know we're not going to close it.
Okay.
He's simply asking for that. So if Lindsay and or Annie, if you would include that information in the revisions, that would be helpful.
Do we have a
Has to be an
date, Jen?
approved site.
March 5th is the next available.
That's the next available. That's what we're asking for.
At the request of the applicant, I make a motion to continue this to March 5th.
Bird second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to continue this until March 5th. Last call, questions or comments? We're voting on the continuance. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Russ,
Robbins, aye.
Steve?
And
It is unanimous. We have continued this until March 5th. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Annie. Thank you, Lindsay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
very much.
All right. Next up are continued requests for hearing under notice of intent. The first one's been previously continued to 2/26. So what brings us to Thomas and Marianne Verlo, 43 Southview Way, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission to construct a dock. Jim?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance until February 26th. They're still waiting for that natural heritage letter.
Speaking of natural heritage,
Bird, so move.
Gladfelter, second.
All right, we have a
Are you
motion
gonna have
and a
room in the
second.
26?
Yes, we are, Kevin. I've already looked at it.
Okay, thank you.
We're good.
We have a motion and a second to continue this until February 26th. We're voting on the continuance. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Russ,
Robbins, aye.
Steve?
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until 2/26. Next up, Jeffrey Vogel, 47 Lakeshore Drive, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission to construct a deck, install a flagstone walkway, and construct a staircase to the pond.
I am promoting Jeffrey Vogel up to present his project, his continued project.
Hmm. Mr. Vogel, you're up, sir. Can you hear me? Vogel?
You guys hear
Can
me?
you hear me? Oh,
Yeah.
there you are.
Hello?
You're up.
Hello.
Yep, we can hear you.
And it says on my end, it says my speaker's not working for some reason, so I'm not sure. I can't hear anything
We can
from
hear
you
you.
guys.
Fine.
Hmm. Oh, there we go. That seems to be working. Great.
Yep,
Sorry
we can
about
hear
that.
you.
We can see you.
I'm good now. Thank you. Sorry
All
for
right.
the glitch on my end. So I'm happy to share my screen and go over changes that I've made since the last time we met a few weeks ago. There were a few small changes and just discrepancies to pick up on my end, things that weren't corresponding between the plan and the narrative.
Okay,
So I will share that, of
thank you.
course. So just to remind you all, this is the property on Jenkins Pond. It's a fairly steep slope going down. So starting at the top of the slope to address the staff's comments and questions from the previous hearing, we've made a few changes. The red is what was previously proposed, the location of the staircase and flagstone walkway. And blue is text that has changed since the previous proposal. So the two big changes to the staircase are one was to relocate away from the shed south on the page to avoid what is not shown on the survey, but is a cedar right next to the shed there. So relocating the staircase would avoid that cedar. It also reduces the run, the total coverage of the stairs by a little bit. We also rearranged the flagstone walkway. It's the same square footage as it was before. The shapes are all just approximate, but connecting both the shed and the house to the deck, so just slightly bigger spacing between what we're showing. Moving down the stairs, one of the staff comments previously was that the fence proposed along the back of mitigation zone 3 here was butting into the mitigation zone. So we amended those two to show the fence outside of the mitigation zone. And also by moving the staircase, that mitigation zone got slightly smaller. I think it went down about 15 or 20 square feet. And that's noted here. We also noted that the ivy that's currently present there is all to be removed to make way for the new plantings. And then the other two changes are at the bottom of the slope. We pulled the stair back away from the inland bank a little bit. It's shown in red here. We had it kind of coming closer to the inland bank line and landing on a larger landing. We've reduced the size of that landing by a couple feet. So that's a little bit smaller as well. The last piece that I believe was addressed was we previously showed filter fabric riprap soil retention beneath the stair that the staff requested we remove. So we've removed that from the plans as well. We've also removed the note that caused some confusion last time about a concrete retaining wall. There's nothing new proposed. There's only this existing retaining wall, concrete wall that's proposed to remain. We're not going to touch it. It's going to stay exactly where it is. And I think that covers everything. Are there any other questions, concerns that I missed?
Well, let's turn it over to staff. If you don't mind, stop sharing for the moment, please.
Of course.
Thank you. All right, Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I think our only concern at this time, just still from the holdover from the last that terminal landing at the end, almost like it's going to be like a little deck extension, and we just although Mr. Vogel did reduce it in size, it's still more deck-like than we would like to see on a staircase, but that'll be up to the board. That's all I have.
Thank you. Alyssa?
Yep, just the second comment I had, Mr. Vogel, I can't recall if you had addressed this at the last hearing. Just wondering, considering the steepness of the slope, what your plans are for installing the mitigation, maintaining it, traversing to water it, make sure it's doing well.
I mean, I think as much of the mitigation as we can locate upslope, the better. This kind of area, closer to the bottom of the slope is a little bit easier to access. So I think kind of picking those two as the primary spots where the plantings are going to go would be the first part of it. But I think having the staircase there would provide access to water the plants. If that's not sufficient, we could run some, temporary drip irrigation lines to get things started. If that's something that the commission would like to see, to make sure it's getting ample water while it's getting off the ground. I'm open to recommendations there as far as best strategies to keep it, intact, because we want stuff there to keep the slope where it is. We don't want things moving. So the more the better, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and we see drip irrigation versus, hand watering all the time. So it's probably going to be whatever is most viable for you and what helps you reach as many of the plants as possible. Yeah.
Personally, I would prefer drip irrigation. I think it would make it just easier for me. I don't have to keep going up and down, but
yeah.
Yeah.
That works. Thank you so much.
Yep.
All right, that and some rappelling gear, you'll be all set. All right. Commissioner comments, Courtney?
I don't have a problem with the landing areas, the sort of deck being old. The idea of going up alongside the stairs and having a place to rest my weary bones on my way up is a good idea. Anyway, I have no other comments. I think it's a well thought out project.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, I like the revisions you made, Mr. Vogel. I think the everything just looks a lot more, I don't know, efficient. I don't have a problem with the whatever you want to, the landing at the bottom either. Just so you know. Kevin?
No additional comments. Thank you, Mr.
All
Chairman.
right. Russ?
I'm good, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Steve?
I'm good as well, Mr. Chairman. I think it blends well into the existing habitat. Thank you.
Excellent. Betsy?
Nope, things look great. It's a nice revision, very clearly laid out.
Thank you.
We appreciate clear plans.
Yes, we do.
Yes, we
Likewise. I work for an architecture office, so clear plans are good. It means I'm doing my job right.
Good.
So, point of order, Mr. Chairman, what's the quorum for tonight's meeting, for this hearing? Is it everybody?
It's everybody that's here.
Yeah, I just want to make sure.
Are you afraid that Alyssa and I are not doing our jobs?
No, I didn't know that, I hadn't heard anything about the quorum, so I'm raising the issue. Sorry.
All right. Under other business for next week, we'll have a vote for new chairpersons. All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat, Mr. Chairman.
Make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Third, second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Last call, questions or comments? We're voting to close the hearing. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Third, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Russ?
Russ, aye.
Steve? It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mr. Vogel.
Thank you all. I appreciate it.
Good night.
Good night.
Good evening.
I usually only call out quorum when there's a, I don't know, to use a word, an issue, if there's somebody that's not included that's here.
Yeah, normally that gets called out.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Oh, it's fine. It's all good. Next up, request to amend an existing order of conditions. Joseph G. Mirazola, trustee, Joseph G. Mirazola Revocable Trust, 2018, 15 Moses Road, Falmouth, Mass. Request to amend the order of conditions for Mass DEP number 25-4826 to permit the as-built location of the deck stairs. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this, there was a slight, mix up when we advertised this, so we do need to re-advertise it. We'll be
Oh.
re-advertising it for March 5th. We were gonna do it on the 26th, but you don't want anything else on the 26th, so that's,
So it's my
we'll
fault.
go on the March 5th. We'll be re-advertising it for March 5th, excuse me.
So we need to vote on the continuance to March.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't hurt. Even though we're gonna re-advertise it, it's fine.
I'll make
If
a
we don't
motion to
follow
continue.
protocol, then Mr. Bird is gonna have my head, so.
We're not opening it, Jamie. So how can we
Okay.
continue it?
Okay, that's fine. You don't need to continue it. We're just gonna re-advertise it for the 5th.
So we won't
That's
take
fine.
any action.
All
No
the
action.
parliamentarians, good.
All right. All right, next up, continued request to amend an existing order of conditions. Donna Haber Kornberg, trustee, Donna Haber Kornberg, 2021 Revocable Living Trust, 70 Kerry Lane, Falmouth, Mass. Request to amend the order of conditions for Mass DEP number 25-4742 to permit a fieldstone wall, ramps, and a relocated masonry wall after the fact. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have promoted Raul from Cape and Islands to present this amended request. Raul, I see the rest of the team in the attendees. Am I pulling anybody else up, or is it just you?
Yes, please, if we can bring them all up.
Everyone? Okay. Mr. Chairman,
And the-
I am promoting Jeff Oppenheim, who represents the property owner. And I'm also promoting Tommy Vos from Vos Builders and Paul Moskowski from Moskowski Landscaping.
And the quorum is all of us here tonight.
Correct.
Thank you.
This hasn't been previously open. All right, Raul, you're up, sir.
Thank you. Good evening. For the record, Raul Lizardi from Cape and Islands Engineering. And as Jennifer just noted, we have Jeff Oppenheim, Tom Bowes, and Paul Miskowski also representing the applicant for this amendment. If I could share my screen.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So the project is to amend Order of Condition 254742. It was issued in 2022 for the construction of a pool and pool deck and retaining walls. The project is located in Quistit Harbor or Quistit Village in the way to Woods Hole. In 2022, this was the site plan that was presented to the board that eventually got approvals. This was the second iteration of the site plan that the second hearing from Conservation finally approved the project for the proposed pool deck, and retaining walls. The project was constructed, however, it was not constructed in the exact location that it was permitted, and it was designed according to these plans. So we are asking to amend the permit to keep some of the existing features that were as built, but also to cut back some of the other features to more closely to what was approved in 2022. So this new plan that we filed for this amendment shows what we're proposing to do, but it also compares it to what was approved in 2022. If I go in specifics with some of the photographs, hopefully everyone can see these photographs, and I'm going to zoom into one of these pictures. So hopefully everyone can see there is a row of fieldstone wall or fieldstone that were used as a wall in this location. That is roughly the location that was designated the limit of work. The original order of condition asked for a 10-foot setback from the limit of work for the deck and the retaining wall. So the deck and the retaining wall was proposed somewhere back here, 10 feet away from the limit of work. Of course, the fieldstone wall is at the limit of work and slightly beyond the limit of work. This portion over here was slightly filled in as they were building the fieldstone wall and the block retaining wall. The block retaining wall is actually about 5 feet from the location of the limit of work that was approved, and the deck that's built on top of it is roughly at that same elevation. Looking at another of the pictures, this is the area going up around the retaining wall. The wall is roughly some 6 feet at the highest point, but it was proposed to be further in, another 5 feet further in from the current location. This fieldstone was not intended to be here. In going back to what was approved, we prepared this graphic and we shared it with staff. Originally, this is the limit of work that was approved. However, this was the buffer zone A. Now, what we have in this property is a site that has a completely vegetated, naturally vegetated buffer zone A. So there was no requirement of mitigation planting so long as we do some improvements to the site. One of the improvements that we originally proposed was this green area of mitigation or restoration plantings, even though it was located within 10 feet of the limit of work. An alternative that we could have done is that we could have cleared all the way down to buffer zone A, put the limit of work at that location, and show a 10-foot setback, which would have been this green dashed line that I depict on this view. That was not the original plan, but in this amendment, what we're trying to show is that some of these features could have still complied with the regulations of no disturbance to the buffer zone A, providing a 10-foot offset, and still do some improvement in the form of mitigation planting or restoration plantings in some of the proposed cleared areas that would have been like this area right here. So one of the items that we still want to be able to keep is an accessible ramp. This accessible ramp would have technically meet the setback to 10 feet to buffer zone A if we would have put the buffer zone, the limit of work at the buffer zone A right here. This ramp and landing for a ramp would have still meet that 10-foot setback. The wall and the deck at this location would not be able to meet that requirement. So what we propose to do instead is this graphic that is shown on the application drawings. The kind of yellowish area right here is a proposed cutback of the existing deck, 5 feet back, to put the edge of the deck at the edge of the original deck as it was proposed in 2022. We are asking to keep the existing ADA ramp system and landing. The homeowner has some problems with mobility, some disabilities, so this is a feature that we want to keep. In this graphic on the top right corner, we show what it compares to what was approved and what exists today. So what was approved was the wall at this location in 2022. What exists today is a deck and a wall that extended 5 feet to the east.
Yep.
So that's the areas of concern right now. What we're proposing is just to move the deck, but to keep the existing wall in its location, remove the fieldstone wall that was built along the limit of work, and all the space between the existing block wall and the limit of work would all be given up as restoration plantings with native species. All of the proposed work is still more than 75 feet to the inland bank, so it protects the buffer zone A. It still provides some vegetation and some improvements in vegetation in buffer zone B. And we feel that a 10-foot setback for maintenance of this retaining wall is not really necessary. This wall is probably going to outlast most of the other improvements on the property. So 10-foot setback is not something that will be a necessity to really maintain this wall. But I'll leave it up to the commission for any comments, and I'll stop sharing. And we have the contractor joining us in case there's any specific questions for them. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Raul.
Thank you, Raul.
Tom, Jeffrey, or Paul, do you have anything you want to add at this point before commissioner and staff comments?
I don't think so.
Excellent. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. This came to light because one of the team brought it to our attention. Unfortunately, during the hearing process, the board did require the applicant to submit a revised plan because the board did want to see that 10-foot no structure zone. Unfortunately, it was built in accordance with the original plan and not the revised plan that the board required. So staff, we have no other choice but to say that we feel that the wall, the deck, the fieldstone wall, and all of the fill should be removed, and the project should be built in accordance with the approved order of conditions. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Alyssa?
I just had a question regarding the invasive species removal that was previously proposed on the bank. In visiting the site, I did notice that there were shrubs installed, but there was still ivy on the ground. I wasn't sure who was actively maintaining the area and if there were still treating and kind of chasing the ivy.
My name's Paul Muskowski, and Melissa, we actually, at one point, we removed the ivy, but we didn't spray it, and we didn't put a machine on it. Well, we dug it as best we could, and then we replanted at the time per the plan. As with any Baltic ivy, it's going to come back, and unless we really go at it with with chemicals, and it's a steep slope. So I was a bit hesitant to do anything aside from what we did, and I was hoping that the azaleas and some of the other plants that we put in there were eventually going to outgrow and maybe shade them a bit. So, but we've had absolutely no erosion on that site.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, commissioner comments. I'm going to start. Raul, just for to be clear, you're proposing to remove 5 feet of deck, but leave that manufactured retaining wall?
Right. We're asking to keep the main retaining wall, remove the fieldstone wall, remove the fill, and move back the deck, but also keeping the ADA ramp system.
Okay. I mean, that's going to be a project getting in there to support that deck that's already on site. It's already existing. Okay, so your plan is to go 10 feet zone line versus the fieldstone wall? Because you're taking the fieldstone wall down, you just said. Okay, thank you. All right. Excuse me, Kevin.
Kind of nervous. I mean, it seems as though we're going to be approving something that they just decided to do it differently on their own, but I'll go along. I'll keep my mouth shut. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Russ.
I'm okay with it, Chairman.
All right, Steve.
Steve, you're on
muted.
mute.
I'm concurring with Kevin at the moment.
All right, Betsy.
I'll go a step further than Kevin and Steve and say that I think it should be built the way it was approved.
Approved.
Yeah. All right. Courtney.
So if I understand right, what Jen is recommending is that essentially they reconfigure everything so it's built to be as it was approved. Am I correct in that?
Correct.
Yes.
So, and I think, I mean, I'm okay with that. I just, what I would like to see is a methodology for supporting that, that block wall that supports the deck. Because that's going to be a major operation. And I mean, the disturbance to accomplish this is going to be significant. And I'd like to see sufficient controls in there. And I'd like to see a good methodology outlined. You can appreciate that, Tom, as a builder. And Paul, you know, because that's going to be a tricky operation to do, and I think everybody's got to be on the same page as how it's going to be done to not make it too intrusive. In other words, we don't have to bite worse than the bark. That's all I have.
All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the public chat function, Mr. Chairman, but Attorney Oppenheim I think wants to address the board.
Okay. Mr. Oppenheim, you're up, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On behalf of my client, who is obviously not happy to be in this position, not happy to have their engineer making such a presentation, I would just ask the board to consider the impact on the entire project if we are compelled to move this wall back 5 feet. Letters have been submitted by our general contractor, Paul Moskowski, that discuss the impact that would occur on the pool that is in place. This location of the wall was not something that my client intended or approved. And she is disabled, and she is a woman of a certain age, and the disruption that, the fix would cause would be rather dramatic. And I would just ask that the commission consider these things in their discussions and if in their rulings. It's not it's not a easy position to be in, obviously, and we wish we were not having to present a compromise to the commission, but all total, it's a 5-foot issue, and I hope that the commission would be able to approve the amended plan. Thank you.
So to be clear, you just said your client didn't approve these changes? So somebody just
Straighten
to
that
follow the
out.
plan?
Did not approve the location of the wall where it is.
So who did it?
Miskovsky built the wall based on the first plan, the first stamp plan that we were given. Working for Donna at the time. There was a disconnect.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Betsy.
Yes, sir.
I'm not sympathetic at all with the disconnect. I mean, why do we bother listening to projects
Yeah.
and then have some concerns, and then people come back once, sometimes two, sometimes three times until we're all comfortable with what's going to be put there, with the expectation that they're going to build what the final approved plan was. So I'm not sympathetic. And Jeff, I appreciate your advocating for your client, but I'm a woman of a certain age also, and projects are not built, are not approved based on the people who are going to be living there and what they're going to do. They're approved on the effect they have on the environment. And we try to be very consistent so that people know when people come into us, they spend a lot of time with our staff who are very, very good at giving them guidance, and they know what's expected. They know what the building envelope is. And there's a reason why we have these, there's a reason why we have this 10-foot limit. Everybody knows that. Courtney knows it because he had to deal with it before he even got on the board. Why you want to be consistent with this. So I'm not sympathetic at all. If you were able to put it in, you're going to be able to take it out and build it the correct way. And that's my position on this.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions or comments?
If I may.
You're up, sir.
Hi, Tom Vos. I'm the contractor of record for the building permit for the retaining wall because it exceeded 6 feet. And I don't like this position. I don't any more than any of you do. I would just say that there's no more increase of impervious area. I do believe that this was placed in error. I don't think this was trying to get one by on the commission.
Oh, no.
And I think that if there were ever a scenario that deserved relief, this would be it. I think that it would be catastrophic to remove that wall. I think the pool will have to be replaced if that happens. I think it will be just if there were ever a time for relief, I think this might be the scenario. So I would ask the board for that. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, there was, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, there was no benefit to me, Miskovsky, to build that wall in the wrong place. Okay, there was a disconnect between myself and the engineers, which the engineers didn't. In fact, I had 5 engineers that worked on this project, all of which have signed off on the project as complete and done to spec. The problem is we built the wrong plan. And it wasn't intentional. There's absolutely no gain for me to do that job in the way it turned out. So I apologize.
Did you have an order of conditions that referenced the plan that was approved?
There was an order of conditions, and at one point we got the order of conditions. Yes,
and it references,
but there were several.
References a particular plan that was approved.
Betsy, there were several iterations of that plan, of which I was not involved in any of those writings. Excuse me. Okay, I just want to make sure you didn't get cut off, Betsy.
No, I'm just.
Yeah.
This is what the procedure is. Tom and Paul have worked with the Conservation Commission before, and you know that you're supposed to follow the plan of record. And before you start a job, you should compare what it says in the order of conditions with the plan that you're going to be working on.
Betsy, I understand that. And there were at the point that when we started this, there were several iterations that were going around between Donna, Mrs. Kornberg, the pool contractor, and the engineering firm. Okay. And at the end of the day, we didn't get the plan that was supposed to be built.
Yep.
And that's the gist of it. All the other engineering was based on the plan that I worked on, including the block wall, retaining wall. The deck engineer built that. The soil compaction engineer and the overall site engineer for the soil compaction, we all worked together. There wasn't a single moment when anybody from Cape and Islands came to me and said, "Hey, your wall's in the wrong place." They were at the time the engineer of record.
None of those engineers looked at the order of conditions?
No, they didn't look at the order of conditions. No,
Well,
they looked
they're
at the
supposed to.
existing plan. Well, I don't know. I can't explain that. All these engineers worked in harmony to build what we built, and the at least two reports that I have, one from the pool company and one from the engineering firm that designed the block wall system that has been approved at, to spec, have said if we move that wall, the pool is going to go. Period. There's not enough room to build that wall.
Oh.
All right, Raul, you have your hand up.
So yeah, I just wanted to add, so when we get the order condition, we did review the order condition, and we do forward the order condition along with the approved plan to the applicant. We do not know once an order or a project is approved who eventually is going to do the work, so we just provide the information to the applicant. And that's where we sent the approved plan with the order condition. Now that's irrelevant at this point. But something that I wanted to touch is, it was mentioned that if the entire wall has to be relocated, the entire pool has to be rebuilt. The wall is actually deeper in the ground than the pool. To relocate the whole wall, you have to dig deeper than the pool. So we can't keep the pool or structurally supported in place to move the wall that extra 5 feet. So one of the engineers that provided a letter to Paul Muskowski says that they don't recommend moving the wall unless everything gets rebuilt. So that's where we're standing, and that's why we're asking. We're moving the deck, but asking to keep the wall where it's at.
Okay. Commissioner, comments, question? I'm sorry, Jen.
When the staff signed off on the building permit reflected the revised plan. So the building permit that was submitted reflected the approved plan. That is what the staff signed off on when we approved the building permit, just to let you know.
The approved plan or what was built?
The approved plan, Kevin, the one you approved.
Okay.
So Jen, hold on, Courtney. The 10-foot limit of work. Try to follow me here. The 10-foot limit of work that we want is going to remain unvegetated, correct?
Well, the 10-foot no structure zone that the board wanted, 5 feet of it is going to be vegetated, because what they're proposing is to keep the wall that encroaches into.
Yeah, that's not where I'm going with that, though. They want to use it for lawn.
No,
So they are going to vegetate the remaining part of that no structure zone up into the wall. Is that what you're asking, Jamie? I might not be following you.
Yes and no. So, the risk of sounding like I'm telling Mr. Vose how to do his job, if that manufactured wall was taken down to the lower grade, in other words, not excavated completely, you know, he could pour footings and support that deck that's cantilevering now. I'm not sure that really gets us where we want to be, though. I mean, it just shouldn't have been touched, but how do we get a middle ground here? I don't know, I'm just kind of thinking out loud. Courtney, you had your hand up?
Yeah, along the lines of what you're saying, Jamie, I'm sort of trying to think along the same line. Perhaps pouring a concrete wall that's adjacent to the block wall that supports the deck. It's almost in the same plane as close as you can get. It'd be an 8 or 10-inch wall. It would extend from the edge of that manufactured block to out 10 inches, and that would support the retaining wall, and it would get rid of the wall. So we'd get that. So that would be something I'd like to see work through. You know, I don't want to design it sitting here.
Right.
But in other words, there are some solutions here that need to be done, and I don't think we can let it go. And the other question, which is I have for Jen, on that building permit, it cites the plan of record. Does that cite, what's the specific language? Does it say the plan of such and such a date with a revision date of so and so? How is that worded?
Courtney, I can get that information for you. We can show you the building permit plan. The building permit plan basically had, and Alyssa, help me out here. It basically had a kind of like a cutout of Cape and Islands plan showing the distances. So it had the plan, the plan that was put into the building department, I believe, and I haven't looked at it for a few courts, so forgive me. We can get you the information. We can show it to you. It had the block wall. What's the word I'm looking for, Jamie, Courtney? I guess the specs, the specifications for the block wall.
Right.
But where the block wall was supposed to be installed was the little kind of cutout of Cape and Islands plan that showed the correct distances off of our zone A. But we can provide that information to you, Courtney.
Okay.
So you can see it.
Well, so that deals with the building permit. Now, the order of conditions that you issued, I assume
it cited the correct
referenced
one.
a specific plan with a specific revision date.
It did.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
But they're not denying that,
In
Courtney.
my
They're
mind,
just-
that's the
No,
engine that drives the train.
yeah, we're not denying any of that. The
Yeah,
problem,
I just want to be clear about that.
yes, another part to this problem, Courtney, is with the pool itself is not only the bonding, which is a copper wire that circulates in and throughout the pool, which was
Right.
done by Fronius, and then the pool water system, which is out from the pool at least 5 feet, closer to 6, which there is some photographic. You should have that in your hands or
We
not.
don't. Paul, we
Okay.
don't have any.
All right. Well, I showed
Any
you that at the meeting.
documentation from you regarding the pool. So Jeff, when you said that there was a letter provided to Paul, we don't have that letter. So whatever the pool company provided to Paul, we don't have that.
Okay, so Jeff Oppenheim didn't get that to you. Because it got sent back to me from your email address when I sent it.
All right.
Jeff, did you send that to us?
No, I asked Paul to send it to you.
Okay.
No, I didn't have her address.
All right, all right.
No, you didn't.
We're
by
not
the
going to
way.
listen to you two bicker all night,
Thank
so
you.
don't even go there.
Yeah,
I
Mr.
don't
Mr.
wanna
Vos,
bicker.
you had your hand up. Question, comment?
I think I'm good now. I was
So
just going to
ju-
repeat myself. Sorry. Thank you for the opportunity.
you know, it's a tough situation, but you know, Paul, to your comment about, you know, excavating, you know, you're 5 or 6 feet out. Tom still has to find a way to get footings in there to support that deck.
Well, it's a
Wall
gun
or
I.
not. So don't interrupt me.
Excuse me. I thought you were done.
Be a way to support that deck no matter what. So I don't think that's an issue for us anyway. I mean, your application stands. I mean, it's you're asking to keep what was put in incorrectly, so it's something that we've got to consider, I guess. All right. Any other commissioner comments or questions? Staff? Steve?
Mr. Chairman, my position is we ought to rethink this plan, maybe come up with a different solution. Otherwise, I'm going to deny it.
Okay. All right. Mr. Oppenheim, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I would defer to our engineer on the wisdom of continuing this to see if we can come up with a solution that the commission might approve.
Okay.
So from what I'm sorry, Kurt.
Oh, Raul, you're up.
Okay. So from what I'm hearing, if the commission position is to revert back to what was approved, then it doesn't help to continue, because going back to what was approved was just sticking with the current order of condition. If the commission is willing to allow some modification to this amendment, would the commission allow at least the ADA access ramp that still meets the 10-foot setback to buffer zone A to be the amendment? And we propose the wall and the deck, the rest of the wall and the deck, to be relocated per the original plan. Because at this point, if everything is going to go back to the original permit from 2022, then there is no value in continuing this amendment, because there's nothing to approve that's different than what was approved.
I'm willing to approve the ADA ramp.
Yes.
I mean, that's something that could have been approved had it been presented initially. But if you want to continue it, then to come back with another engineering, I'm not convinced that there isn't another engineering solution that you could remove that big wall that's there and still retain what you've done with the pool. I mean, I'm not an engineer, but I've seen engineers do amazing things. So I think it's a little bit of imagination on your part. You specifically, Raul, and you and your engineering colleagues.
Raul, we would need a revised plan anyway, keeping the ramp and then showing the wall being pushed back into its previously approved location. So we'll need a revised plan showing that. So I do think a continuance might be in your best interest.
So right, I do want to hear from the contractors to see if they want us to proceed that route. Because I see the value in at least amending the permit to keep the ADA, but I'd like to hear from Tom and Paul.
Maybe you should do that after this meeting.
Yeah,
let's do that.
Courtney?
So, you know, this is one of these very much unfortunate things. I don't think anybody, my own feeling is, I don't think anyone here acted with intentional malice. It was one of those screw-ups. but there's an object lesson. You guys are gonna be damn sure that you know which plan you're supposed to be working with, and if you have any questions, rather than proceed, you ask. I mean, that's the object lesson here. Now we've got a tough problem to resolve. But normally we would turn around and say, as Jen suggested, take it out because you didn't do it the right way. We realize that, I realize at least, I'm not going to speak for the rest of the commission. I realize that that presents some real technical challenges. However, I think there are some engineering solutions that could be worked out. And I think if we continue this, I think it's incumbent on you to work with staff and with your engineers and come up with a plan that brings what's on site and what's actually built more in line with what the original plan was approved. And if there has to be a variance for structural issues, and I'm speaking only for myself now, then, you know, the commission can consider that. I don't think we can't solve it tonight. I mean, obviously you guys got to continue it, but I think there's an engineering solution that can be worked out that meets our concerns and brings the plan more in line with what was originally approved. Maybe it's not exactly, but you know, we'll get it far enough so that everybody's comfortable. That's my 2 cents.
It was like $4 worth. Raul, what are you thinking?
So yeah, I think I want to ask for a continuance. I believe there's some room for an amendment. And I'll review this with the contractors to the next available hearing. If I'm hearing correctly, that will be March 5th.
Correct, Raul.
So I request to continue to March 5th.
At the request of the applicant, I make a motion to continue this hearing to March 5th.
Bird, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this till March 5th. Last call, questions or comments? Sorry, did you guys hear me? My screen just flashed. So we have a motion and a second to continue this hearing till March 5th. Last call for any questions or comments. All right, we're voting on the continuance. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Russ?
Robbins, aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until March 5th. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, next up, hearings under an enforcement order have been previously continued. Give Jen a second. Well, I think we made a few people unhappy tonight. Next up, vote orders of conditions. First up, William and Elizabeth Scannell, 314 Quistit Avenue, Falmouth, Mass. The quorum is all of us here tonight.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, let me get caught up. 314 Quistit, just rebuilding the dock at the National Academy of Sciences, now private residence.
So you just put the normal things in about
I mean, there was
right water depth.
the only question we have was over the salt marsh, they were just proposing some spacing between the boards, given the fact that the dock is so elevated above the salt marsh. Our only concern from a staff standpoint was, is that going to be enough light for the salt marsh? And Betsy, I do believe at the hearing you said that you aren't concerned that there should be enough light the way it's oriented and everything like that.
Salt marsh has been there for a long time. I think changing it isn't going to reinvigorate.
Perfect.
All right, anything anybody else have?
I'll make a motion to issue an order of conditions as discussed.
Bird second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions. Last call, questions or comments? We're voting. Betsy,
Wackelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Russ,
Robbins, aye.
Steve.
Pat, no.
It is unanimous. We have issued an order of conditions. I got to tell you, I did a dock recently where we used the 50% light penetration on the entirety for consistency. And, you know, some of the new products out there are kind of nice. You know, they look decent. But you know what I like about it? It's easy to clean, you know, with all the birds and everything. I mean, and it's not uncomfortable or anything. I don't know why more people don't, you know, are opposed to it anyway. Because, you know, it looks silly to go, you know, 22 feet with 50% and then go the rest of the, you know, 80 feet with solid. It just, to me, it just doesn't look right.
Is the cost the same, Jamie?
No, it's more money, but, you know,
Yeah.
dock's $100,000. What's the difference if it's 106?
Jamie, if you wouldn't mind giving us that, like a spec for that product or just letting us know, that would be great.
Yeah, and there's different manufacturers. Well, I'm not trying to sell a product. I'm just, you know.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just, I don't
Like
know.
a wood deck to Trex or Trex like something, you know?
There's different ones, you know.
Yeah.
Because some of the first ones that came out were, I want to say it was punctured. What do they call that? Punched metal. So it had like the size of quarters, like raised. I don't know how to say it, dimples. So
Yes.
it was tough on your feet, you know, if you're barefoot or wearing only thin neoprene shoes or something. But the new stuff, you know, it's, as the guy that has to clean it, I'd like it a lot better. Anyway, that's my sales pitch. So you can reach me at 1-800. All right, next up, Joseph and Lucia Giangrasso, 55 Little Island Road, West Falmouth, Mass.
So this was the pool that the patio was constructed and then they removed the patio because it wasn't permitted. They're coming back with a pervious patio in the zone B, which technically, according to your regulations, doesn't require mitigation. But I mean, does the board feel that what was proposed, that kind of system where it was those different layers with the piping underneath, Jamie, does the board consider that to be truly pervious?
Well, that's a
you would need to do.
manufacturer's, you know, thing. But they were offering mitigation anyway, weren't they?
Not for the new patio. It was just
Not
the
for the-
mitigation that was previously required.
That they ripped out. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Courtney.
You know, one of the concerns that I had raised in the hearing is that essentially it's pavers sitting on top of this pervious surface underneath. And there's spaces of about a ½ inch between each brick, so that is where the water flows through. The problem I see with that is it's a great idea until the leaves fall off the trees and so on and clog up those cracks between the gaps between the bricks. Then it's no longer a pervious surface. And so that's the only catch I have. Now, can you require them to maintain that? That's a good question. And I think that's something we need to consider in terms of the order of conditions. That's my only comment on this.
Well, it's not a lot different than grass pavers or pervious asphalt, right? I mean, according to manufacturers, it works just fine. And, you know, nature takes its course. I mean,
but it requires it
requires maintenance.
It doesn't work just fine. It works just fine if it's maintained properly.
Yeah.
So we put a condition in there that they have to maintain it per the manufacturer's specs.
Well, yeah, because the actual paver, the brick itself is not pervious. It's where the pervious comes is in the spaces between the bricks. So if that gets clogged up, it you've defeated the whole purpose of the thing.
Yep, we all understand. We all understand what the issue is. So I agree. I agree that
If they want to
theory,
mitigate
it's a
for it, I'm
pervious-
happy with that.
pervious. No, in theory, this is one of the things we're working on in the regulations. But right now, this is allowed. And so I agree that something should be put in there that this is what the system is and a special condition that it needs to be maintained.
You can put that in. I just don't know how you're going to enforce it, but we'll
Well,
put
you're
it
not.
in.
You're not.
Yeah, which is why we're looking to change that reg.
Right.
Correct.
So I'll make a motion to issue an order of conditions as not yet. I'm not going to make the order yet until Alyssa tells us what she needs.
Thank you. Just based on the last discussion, considering we have lost some mitigation requiring a single rail fence might be prudent. Also considering it's a violation, having the plants installed by a date certain, perhaps sometime in the spring.
Yep.
Yes. Jen and Alyssa, is it a single rail fence is not standard order conditions? No, it should be.
Okay.
I mean, I always understood that there was something was required, whether it's single rail fence. I know on one project we allowed some small boulders, and I don't know, there was something else. I don't know. I think we should always have that in there because, you know, I mean, they blatantly pulled it all out. But there's some people that just simply creep, you know. All right, Courtney.
Yeah, can I come back to this patio for a second?
No.
You're right. Putting a condition in there that it's going to be maintained is impossible to enforce. I think what we put in there is that they've got to mitigate for the patio, and if they don't like it, they got to come back and amend it.
There's no room to mitigate for the patio, Courtney. There's absolutely no room. The patio is too big. There's no room for any mitigation for any patio, which is why they originally didn't propose a patio because they couldn't mitigate for it.
And then they got to, yeah. I'm not comfortable approving it unless we can figure out how to make sure they can maintain it, because it works as long as it's maintained. But I also agree that's unenforceable. That's the problem. We're caught between a rock and a hard place.
Well, it's just like any other project. I mean, we approve stuff every Wednesday night, and some of the stuff isn't enforceable, and some of it comes back to us for an enforcement order, or some of it comes back for amendments, like the hearing we just had. So I don't know. Anything else? All right, Betsy.
Well, I don't think I finished. I don't think I finished my initial motion, which is to approve as discussed.
Second, O'Brien.
All right. We have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions as extensively discussed. Last call, questions or comments? We're voting to issue an order of conditions. Betsy.
Wetwalter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird, no.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Russ.
Robbins, aye.
Steve.
Aye.
All right, it is 5-1. Motion passes. We have issued an order of conditions. Next up, Chris Smith, Clancy Construction, 318 Sipawissett Road, Falmouth, Mass. And the quorum excludes Russ tonight. Sorry, Russ. And we still have 5, so we're good.
This is the raise and rebuild off of Sipawissett Road, kind of a. I'm going to be doing a new house patio. The question was whether or not the board felt that they overcame the presumptions of significance in regards to the coastal bank. And I believe the board did. So in that case, we'll need a revised plan because their mitigation calculations are going to change drastically. To the point where, Alyssa, are these even going to require mitigation?
I don't think so.
It won't require any mitigation. So if the board decides that they overcame the presumption of significance in regards to the coastal bank, then we will request a revised plan with no mitigation.
Or they could choose to leave it.
Or they could choose to leave it.
That would be nice if they're
would.
listening. Okay. Questions or comments? All right. What are you thinking?
I'll make a motion to issue an order of conditions as discussed.
Second up.
And Jen can call these people and give them the option.
We'll
Second
strike a
up,
deal.
Brian.
How about that?
What?
We'll strike a deal. How about that?
Perfect.
Okay.
So we're going to issue with a variation here that either way they do this. I'm confused as to what we're approving.
Well, you're approving the raise and the rebuild, Courtney.
Yeah,
The
I understand.
issue at hand was if the board felt that they did not overcome the presumption of significance in regards to that coastal bank. Now, remember, I showed you a picture.
Yeah.
Buzzards Bay, it goes through a wetland, into a pond, underneath Sippawisset Road, into another wetland, and it's up here. It is at the very landward reaches of that flood zone. It is separated from Buzzards Bay and Flume Pond and everything by Sippawisset Road. The wetland scientist made a presentation that he doesn't believe there's a hydraulic connection because the culvert is actually at a higher elevation than the wetland itself. So if the board, and I do believe at the hearing you did decide that you felt that they overcame the presumption of significance in regards to that
That's what I thought.
coastal bank,
Yeah.
then they do not, under your calculations, require any mitigation.
Okay, so that's what we should approve.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what we are
I
going to
was
approve.
I wasn't sure based on as discussed what it was we were actually approving. That's
We were just saying that if they wanted to add that extra planning, they were welcome to, and they could
I would
talk to
certainly
Jen
welcome
about
that too. All right, now I understand what I'm voting for. Thank you. If there's a second required, I'll do it.
Already set. We have a motion and a second issue in order of conditions as extensively now discussed. Any other questions or comments? All right, we're voting to issue an order of conditions. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin.
O'Brien, aye.
Russ. Oh, sorry, Russ. Steve.
Patton, aye.
It is it's not it's unanimous with this quorum. We have issued an order of conditions. Hey, Russ, I'm just trying to keep you engaged. Yeah, you know. All right, next up, Michael Bedard, 27 Sycamore LLC. 27 Sycamore Street, Falmouth, Mass. And the quorum is all of us here tonight.
Raise and rebuild. And then the mitigation need to be more kind of towards the wetter, wet species because there's a low depression in the area where they want to put the plants. Stop cutting on Great Ponds Coastal Bank. And I think that was it. There was a question about there's 2 driveways or 2 garages.
There are 3 garages. There are 2 driveways and 3 garages.
2 garages, yeah.
And but the question was, how many driveways, and there were no driveways to start with. But now there are
Okay.
2 driveways and 3 garages.
Got it.
Yeah.
I'm more interested in the FAC wet plants. So
Yeah.
raise, rebuild, FAC wet plants.
Yeah, it was pretty straightforward project.
It is. Anything anybody want to see in there? All right. Alyssa? Nothing?
Make a
All
motion
right.
to issue an order of conditions as discussed.
Bird second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions. Last call, questions or comments? We're voting to issue an order of conditions. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Russ,
Robbins, aye. So
Steve.
Pat and I,
It is unanimous. We have issued an order of conditions.
Greenously.
Next up, last up, vote, second to the last up. Vote amended order of conditions. Gaetano Fedora, 258 Edgewater Drive East, East Falmouth, Mass.
Second, Mr. Chairman, I just saw my paperwork on this one and I lost it right here.
Stone wall in place of a wooden wall.
Yeah, a
It's a
wall,
stone
but there was
basin.
some other. Alyssa, did we need a revised plan from Mike to show that extra patio
Yeah.
piece next to the house?
Yes, he did need to update the plan based on the photos in the staff report. That sort of just back deck man-made wall feature was extended with more impervious surface than originally
Yeah,
approved.
that's what
So
I
that
thought.
that will require mitigation, and he's also going to be submitting just a general mitigation calculation, just so we can confirm that the right amount will be reinstalled.
Yep, okay.
All right, questions, comments, anything anybody want to see in there?
Make a motion to issue an order of conditions as discussed.
Bird second.
All right, last call, questions or comments? We're voting to issue an order of conditions, an amended order of conditions. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Russ,
Robbins, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have issued an amended order of conditions. Thank you, everyone. Last motion, who wants it?
I move
I
to
make a
adjourn.
motion to adjourn, second.
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird eye.
Matthews,
O'Brien,
aye.
Robbins, aye.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.